cars on the grid looked a bit different than the rest of the grid. And I mean it in a way that you can't really tell, but other teams can. That is the Aston Martin and the Red Bull. And I think that these are the two best cars going into 2023. And first of all, before you get it confused, when I mean best, I do think Red Bull will be the best going into it in the beginning. I don't think Aston Martin is the fastest, but the best built car. It is built the best for really these regulations, and the upgrades coming to the car could make it up there with the Red Bull, if you understand where I'm coming from. Before the video starts, please leave a like, subscribe. We are halfway to 1,000. It would mean the world for me, and we are killing it. Honestly, we are killing it. It makes me very happy. Let's get started into the AMR 23 and RB19 video. Kind of like a comparison, but even more in depth. Okay, so starting it off with the AMR 23. I mean, we can tell that some part of the philosophy is definitely towards the RB19. It's huge undercut under the side pod, the way that it kind of goes into the side pod, but they also took inspiration from other cars. But another thing that both Red Bull and the AMR 23 have that's different to every other team on the grid, and I got this information off of Mercedes because Mercedes was saying that Aston Martin car is looking like the second fastest car on the grid. Now I think Toto is downplaying their Mercedes big time, but it did look fast and it was riding those corners beautifully, and it was really just smooth all around the grid. The Red Bull and the AMR are the cars that I think have right now the best balance in their cars. I guess that's a better way of stating what I tried saying in the beginning. They're the most balanced cars on the grid. It also makes them the best in that type of way. As we saw, the Alpine was squirrely as hell. Mercedes was decent, needed a little bit of corrections, balance still ain't there yet. The Ferrari is a little bit in between. I don't know if it's at its best balance just yet, but the Red Bull and the Aston Martin just look planted. That downforce looks like it's perfectly working on the cars. And now the comparison that I was trying to make with what Mercedes said was that the actual barge board and how low the floor is, it is almost 10 millimeters lower than any other car on the grid. Toto Wolff even states in an article that if we were to run the car at that point, our floor would break. Meaning that the advantage that they're gaining from their downforce is a lot bigger in comparison to a team like Mercedes because of that. They can't run the floor as low as the AMR 23 or the RB19. This causes a big problem for other teams on the grid, but it does give a certain someone like the W14 kind of a hint as to how they can make this car now. Listen, for the Aston Martin car, because they are a customer team, Aston Martin takes the gearbox, the power unit, and the back is made by Mercedes, meaning the rear suspension. So if Aston is able to run the floor so low and they only make the front suspension, ding, 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 it gives Mercedes a nice opportunity to be like, okay, so the actual problem we're having as to why we can't run our floor so low is in the front suspension. So if they pick up on that, they use the hints that they have, they can now run their floor a lot lower, and they probably will take that to their advantage. I mean, it depends how circulated the car is around that front suspension and what they have going now for the actual airflow. Because if it's not going in the direction that AMR has it, and they aren't really on that same path, then this could be another kind of weird year for Mercedes. But at the same time, this could be an amazing year for both Red Bull and the AMR 23. That downforce that they're picking up will be huge. The gains that they will pick up will be huge. Cornering speeds, especially high speed corners, which was a huge downfall to AMR 22 last year because the actual ride height of the car was really high up. They had the porpoising problem like Mercedes. Didn't look like it this year. They aren't porpoising whatsoever. So that AMR 23 is gonna look speedy in tracks like, I was gonna say France. We do not have France this year. But in tracks like Suzuka, in tracks like Zandvoort and Singapore, any track that really has medium to high speed corners, even low speed corners will be great on that AMR because it can ride the curbs a lot better than any other team, and it can just stick it down on the pedal a lot quicker than any other team. Toto Wolff even goes on to say that the RB19 and the AMR 23, they can brake a lot earlier than any other team, a lot later than any other team on the grid. They're able to brake a lot later, and they're able to accelerate a lot quicker, which already puts them in a huge advantages to other teams. Obviously, the name of the game is how late can you brake and how quickly can you go on the pedal, because that will make the fastest car, essentially. Sure, the driver makes a big difference, and it is dependent on whether he has the balls to do it or not, but the car has to be able to perform to that type of capacity. The AMR23 and the RB19 are clearly favorites in that capacity as of right now. Can that change? It can change very quickly. The pecking order can change throughout the whole entire season. The cars are close. Everything is pretty close on the grid, and we could be getting a pretty close battle for the top, maybe even 4 to 5 teams this year, which would be an amazing thing to see. The opener is just a day away. Sure, it's practice, but man, we will see some gains in practice, and it'll give us a better, I guess you can say, understanding of where these cars actually line up in. Testing was a good hint, but practice will give us a lot better of an understanding. Qualifying will give us the real understanding, and then in the race, we'll see how race simulations go and where the car is in comparison to what it had in testing. AMR23, RB19, biggest cars going into 2023, and the biggest talking points really of 2023. Can both teams capitalize? Can they not? Let me know your thoughts down below. Please leave a like, subscribe. It would mean the world, and peace.